Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of MTG Arena. Today is Friday, November 15th. Let's see, what do we want to reroll? Kill 15 of your opponent's creatures is probably more difficult than it is to cast 20 blue or red spells, honestly. It's weird that that's the case because in Hearthstone it would be the exact opposite case. But I guess the fact that in Magic, creature spells are still spells, this really just means play almost any card. Yeah, I don't think there is a single card, with maybe the exception of lands, that isn't considered a spell. So I'm just going to reroll this. Attack with 45 creatures is probably easier than killing 15 creatures because, again, it's the opponent that chooses whether or not they defend, and that's really the only way you could destroy a creature, with a few exceptions. We're at rank 56 and we've got a pack. I played a little bit. It's becoming almost traditional now that on days that I'd stream, I do stay... I do play all 15 victories, but I'm not really trying to do that for eternity. Now, I have a question about this, because you can have 7 of these in the deck. Does that mean I will constantly get 7 dwarfs? Because the way it's depicted, it says you can have an infinite amount of 7 dwarfs. I don't see a reason why you would want more than 7. And let's say maybe you could have 15 in your side deck also, but I would assume that would that work? Can you have 7 dwarfs in your hand in your main deck and 15 7 dwarfs in your side deck and then pull them out? That'd be very difficult to do for not much of a reason. Once you have everything, you will get a card shape that says crystals. I saw somebody else who had purchased all the cards opening packs, and it is just like 25 crystals. It's not a lot, it doesn't seem like, or it's a random amount would be probably the better way to go with that. And we're in our advanced play mode off, and our season ends in 14 days. We're bronze tier 14. So we have a festival, standard, cascade. Let's see what this is. Alright, this starts in 33 hours, which really puts it like on Sunday, doesn't it? Like, it's starting a little late today. I know it's like 4 in the afternoon. I guess that's kind of nice that there isn't like a chat yet or a clock. This is how you know Magic the Gathering has been wise about turning their game into a lifestyle game, or at the very least they know it's a lifestyle game. There's no clock in the corner. There's nothing here. It is very casino-like mentality. So 2,500 gold to do these festivals to get these skins. I'm not sure I should be doing these, actually, and we'll just have to hope that this is still running on Monday. The more I think about it, these things that just are going to give you skins are probably out of my purview, and I would be better to do a ranked draft of Throne of Eldraine or Core 2020 right now, and get more cards that way for 5,000 gold than waste gold and do the skins. And these festival things seem to only be slight varieties, slight changes, that they feel like they should be what the brawls are, but then the brawls don't pay you anything. Alright, And we don't have any more ads. So this is just blue or red. So let's play with red. Now I have a confession I think that needs to be mentioned. I looked at my statistics. I don't believe I built any of my decks. Even my best deck here, which is Out for Blood, let's see. Yeah, this one, Out for Blood 1 version 1.1. Like, even my best deck here is not better than the default decks. It just isn't, according to the statistics. So what do we do to fix that? I think we need to just go back to the beginning here and play the default decks. A good thing I kept them, and we need to try and relearn whatever elements I've missed here, of which I've clearly missed some things. I imagine, if I was to guess, a mistake has been made on the amount of land. That every single deck I built probably has too few land and is doing too much craziness. Here we have on the default deck starting with 3 or 4 land, which is what they say you should have. And I think that I often am putting myself in a low mana situation and a low draw situation, and that seems to be a lot more important than I realized initially. So then we want a 2/2. So when this attacks, you can cast a spell equal to my power, which that really wouldn't do anything right now. So I would have to figure some way of buffering this guy, or just having him cast a bunch of 1 mana spells. Let's see. We'll just do no attack that turn. So I'm still playing Fear, although the last level I played did something different, certainly, in the fact that it basically was giving me what I would call a kiss off. They threw a level. Well, in Fear, I finally got out of the main office building, which you spend the vast majority of the game in. You start in kind of a warehouse, and then after several levels of in the warehouse, you're in this main office building for hours and hours and hours. And I finally got out of there into this kind of abandoned city section. And I started running into just an incredibly large amount of struggle. A lot of people with the top tier weapons, with this with these laser guns that can do, even on easy, they're doing like at least 30 or 40. Why did that not kill him? I don't understand. That should have killed that character. Or did it did, it killed a different one.
If I were you, I'd just surrender right now.
There's something about the way the cards move around there.
Battle to the grave. They will not learn much from your death.
Like, take note here that I have been able to... Let's see. That I've been able... Take note I've been able to play a land every turn here. So, yeah. In this area, like the last big battle in this area, they basically are just trying to make me frustrated and give up, it feels like, and on top of seemingly let's see. Let's just go ahead and deal this, or let's go ahead and deal this.
So that's how it is.
So apparently Planeswalker is not an opponent, because this should have gotten +3 until the end of the turn, and that didn't work anyways because I didn't read the fullness of this card. Now,
waste not, want not.
Darn it. Yeah.
Defeat. What a drag.
On top of just being really difficult and me having to save scum the game, which I've not had to really save scum the game at all up until this point, and it being on easy, there's also a section you have to cross where you have to jump across a gap, where there's really been no need to jump across a gap so far in the game at all. And they make it close to impossible to jump, because playing on the controller and having mapped the controllers myself, I did not really map a run button, which is probably what I would have needed.
True heretics will feel the bite of my blades. I will never press the attack.
Thought this was a 3, but I guess I misread it. It must have been a 4, and then I did 2 damage to it. So yeah, there's just this gap that the only way I was able to get past it at all was luckily there was a section with some pieces of wood to the side of it, and I was able to kind of climb up half of the slanted piece of wood to get about halfway through the gap, and then from kind of a crouching position just kind of glitch my way across. All the while you're trying to jump this gap, you're also in an area where people are shooting you from windows, which there's not been any such situation where things have shot you through windows before, with the exception of some flying turrets that were in the previous sequence, and they weren't shooting you from far distances through windows, and by any means they were just shooting you shooting you directly outside the window, so and then they'd often fly into the building and start shooting you from inside the building.
I was
So
trained for
just
this.
an amazingly high difficulty spike. But also I know that there's 12 intervales, and I'm only in intervale 12, and I'm only at intervale 8 inferior, so that I know that there's 4 more levels minimum, probably more than that. Let's see, this would just give him +1 attack, so unless I was going to defend with something, there's really nothing I can do. This guy has to be blocked. Darn it. Well, I'm doomed. One of the accusations that was made by this video I watched, it said why Magic the Gathering Arena is particularly bad about turning people from free-to-players into payers and whales, was that it matched up people based on what cards they've unlocked and what cards they have. I'm not sure if it's what cards you have unlocked in your collection or if it's what cards you have in your deck. If it's what cards you have in your deck and you go back to playing a default deck, then that might make it kind of easier. Of course, I'm not having any ease right now in this one game. If it's what you've unlocked in your collection, then it almost becomes a little pointless to even buy packs, because you're just locking yourself into this terrible scenario where the game is going to get more and more difficult based on the more cards you've unlocked. If that's really how it works, in theory you should not buy any new cards in the new expansion and just get them free whenever they're given to you, and maybe not even open the packs. But that would be a silly way to play. So yeah, I don't know. Otherwise, on the video, the accusations that were being made weren't particularly that damning or that strong, if you kind of know. In all fairness, I think Hearthstone was pretty bad about turning people from free-to-play players into whales, whereas Magic the Gathering has had decades of experience turning people into lifestyle players of Magic, and that's their phrase. They want the people who are so obsessive with Magic that they're playing every day 15 games. You can see it even in Arena, and I think they're going to have to back off on that if they want to have what is a realistic amount of people playing the game in modern time. This is not 30 years ago. This was not the 60s and 70s where it's realistic that somebody would go to the game shop 3-4 times a week and play Magic or play Dungeons and Dragons every 3 or 4 times a week. That's not realistic. There's more competition. Their game needs to compete from a more realistic perspective, and they need to have a lot more casuals. If anything, Magic the Gathering has locked in all of its hardcore lifestyle players that it's ever going to get, and it needs to get the next generation of people who won't be, in no way have a chance of being a lifestyle player that's going to play every single day. guess we can just attack with both of these. Yeah, attack that. Do I really have to tell you that? Like, it can't really target anything. I could sacrifice him and do 2 damage. Yeah, but I'm not going to. Yeah, that's what it's asking me to do. So yeah, it's still early days for Arena, while it's very old days for Magic. And there's always going to be, or at least for a long while, there's going to be that weird split, certainly, between those two factors. I want to block? Sure. Nope. Does this guy even have reach? Why would I be able to block? Oh, because this one is... This one's not flying, it just has... can't block on it. Alright. Deal 4 damage here. And seems like this guy doesn't have anything, so we'll just keep on playing. Just auto pass. So yeah, I could play this next turn, I could play this next turn, and I'm going to win. The only other thing I guess I really have to say about Fear is there was a point where you were escorting a girl named Alice, or a lady, a woman named Alice, and Alma, the creepy Japanese spooky ghost girl, walked towards her in an elevator while you were way out of the elevator, and then the elevator door is closed, and you thought, and I speculated, we'll find her as a bloody mess or something, and Alma killed her, or something. At least you'd have maybe a little bit of evidence that it's not just the main character hallucinating all of these actions. And there's kind of nothing there that confirms that. In a weird way, she just goes, when you run into her on the rooftop later, she goes, "Where'd you go?" Last thing I remember was, the last thing I remember was getting on the elevator or something along that lines. So she just kind of blacked it all out, which implies that Alma might be secretly inside of Alice. Consequently, like, within the next level or two, she's kidnapped a second time. She lets herself get kidnapped effectively because she jumps in a car without you and drives away. And the person in charge, the guy who's doing all the talking for you, because your character doesn't speak at all, who's on the radio, and gave her a radio, talks to her, and then calls her the B word after she doesn't follow his orders, on the open mic where I'm sure she could hear. There was not even an indication that I got that she had taken the mic out or anything. So, like, yeah. The game, particularly in the later section, seems like it's trying very hard to be adult by doing a very unadult thing, which is just throwing throwing in a lot of cuss words and cursing, which that's not really mature. It's just an edgy teenager trying to be mature. Let's see. So I'm gonna have to search something here because I saw some news and I want to confirm it. Let's see. Alright, we have somewhat of a trusted source here for this bit of news. Just go ahead and resolve. I should just be auto-passing. So yeah, I'm really struggling to get to the end of Fear 1. I'm not going to do the DLC, and they've opened the door with the latest level of me just rage quitting it completely, because like I really don't see a reason to continuously go down this path of potentially frustrating myself. Let's see. I'm just gonna get rid of that guy so he can't use his special ability. We'll just save this ability for later. So yeah, it's gonna be weird too, because if I jump into Fear 2, let's say 6 months to a year from now, I'm kind of committed at this point to playing it during October. But if I jump into it and I say, well, this game still doesn't have controller support, it doesn't look any better than where we were before. It's not gonna make a lot of sense to play Fear 2 to get the story. It might be that Fear 3 is the good one in the series. It might be that none of them are in the series, particularly if you're just playing multiplayer. Alright, let's see. So, yeah. The whole game series might be just a whole ball of nothing, which would explain why it's gone on under my radar for the most part. The big fear, I suppose, no pun intended, is that since Fear 1 came out and then like a month or two later Condemned Criminal Origin came out, and I really did like Condemned Criminal Origin, my concern would be that if whenever I get around to playing Condemned Criminal Origin 1, I realize, oh, this game is super dated now, and all the things that scared me that one time the first time I played it don't really work anymore, or maybe they should have never worked. In all honesty, when I was playing Condemned Criminal Origin, I was also working a job that was stressing me mentally and physically to the max, and so I may literally have just been, for lack of a better term, tortured by my employee down to the point where I was psychologically vulnerable. Let's see. Yeah, he's gonna just have to resolve that one, unfortunately. So yeah, it might be a case that it wasn't the game. fine. You want to play that way? We'll do that. Wasting his cards. So, yeah, that might be the case, or it might be that Condemned Criminal Origin was legitimately, or had a legitimate reason to be spooky then, but it isn't now, or, you know, it would be nice, but it's not really determined, or 100% guaranteed, but it would be nice to realize that mentally, as far as what I found scary 15 years ago, is not really anything that I feel like is too scary nowadays. I may have just grown as far as my mental fortitude as far as spooky, scary things. Which probably not a good thing, considering I already have even 15 years ago, I already had a very high tolerance for spooky, scary things not really scaring me. Kind of kills all the fun of watching horror movies if you're trying to get scared, which I guess was never really my goal when I was watching horror movies. It turns out that there was a Xbox presentation going on this week, and the Jedi Fallen Order game came out this week, so not a lot of games came out, and not a lot of other news came out, but I've said that several times, and it really hasn't meant or done anything. Let's see. I am gonna just kill this guy, I think. Just to get rid of him. Of course, I could have done that with this too, but whatever. Would do trample damage, but only if it was buffed up, and I don't really have a way to buff up anything, so I'm just gonna say no attacks for this turn. I'm starting to get the little bits of confirmation that this guy's a mentor, so I'm just gonna go ahead and play this and get rid of him, and then play this, and then just attack with everything. So, I didn't understand this card clearly. It took a card out of my graveyard and casted it, and then exiled a different card. So, it seems like I might be able to straight up go. So I can cast a spell and just concede. And that's 2 victories on gold tier 4. And yeah, it does seem like just going back to the basics was the right move. I moved too fast to get away from that. And so we're making nice progress as far as victories, as far as creatures are getting destroyed. I do want more XP constantly. It does feel like it might be a little bit difficult to get up to rank 100 if the season starts to end prematurely. I thought it was 90 days or even longer, but I don't know. Like, we may enter winter. Like, we kind of are in fall right now, but then is fall, when does winter start and when does fall end as far as Wizards of the Coast is concerned? It'd be kind of crazy for them to release a new pack right now. It's too close to Black Friday. It's too close to everything else. See, now this is what's crazy, is that they say this is a good hand to play. I would say no. But I have to keep 6 now, so. And when you're mulliganing once and you have 3 mana, you might as well just throw 1 mana back. See, I think you're supposed to have like 28 land cards in that. I would bet if I went back and looked at all my decks, I would bet I find that basically none of them have that 28 land decks in there. Yeah. So yeah, I'm hearing that EA finally put out a good Star Wars game after a very long time. After the Battlefront debacle and such. There does seem to be some performance issues if you try to... well, generally there's performance issues, but if you're playing it on stability mode, the performance issues don't seem to be that bad. But if you're playing it on performance mode, it does seem like it's pretty bad, particularly if you're not playing on the Xbox One X or the PlayStation Pro. Once it gets to PC, like, I imagine all of these will get fixed, and I imagine for the console versions it will also get fixed too. Unless this is another one of those cases where EA has made a game that they don't care about the PC version, which is possible, and if that turned out to be the case, then PC may not be the way that you want to play. So yeah, that would be a consideration too, I suppose. I guess I should have had that on the field instead. But if I'd played this, I wouldn't have been able to use that spell, so I did actually play right. Let's just go with no attack this turn. There's a danger that can't have +1/+1 counters. Interesting. It's an interesting way to go. So +1/+0 counters still work. So every time this guy kills a guy, I'm gonna take 1 damage and he's gonna gain 1 health. So we're gonna try and kill the vindictive vampire pretty quickly. So yeah, we're kind of low on news, but the big news I think here is the Blizzard co-founder Frank Pierce exits after 28 years. This is from Variety. From what I heard, and this seems to be very, like, within the last hour or two, a bunch of people also have left with him. He was, I believe, the person that disagreed with the Blitzchung situation, so the idea that the CEO had him go out there and kind of disagree with him publicly as a way of kind of counter protesting their own actions and confusing the issue. Well, that concept that was brought up by Giant Bomb, I think, is out the window at this point. If anything, him disagreeing publicly was evidence that he had already decided to leave, or the triggering factor that he was asked to leave. I just have to attack, don't I? Like, there's nothing else I can do. I have to start getting some of these guys. Well, I guess I could wait, but it's too late now. Particularly since this guy is going to stop my characters from having +1/+1 counters. I didn't realize that until just now. Yeah. So Variety doesn't really have much other to say other than he's leaving the company. But yeah, it's basically just another example of the talent fleeing and leaving. Leaving Activision Blizzard. I don't know if there's anything else really to even say about it than that. But yeah, seems like the Hong Kong censorship was the last straw, and it's only now become slightly video game related. It really is still not super video game related, but the Hong Kong protests are still going on and escalating, and I would encourage people to keep informed about all important world events if they are truly important. But this is a video game channel, so I'm not going to go into great detail there, unless it kind of directly coincides with something. Right. Yeah.
You have only won a battle.
I can't really do anything because I'm still behind too expensive mana and not enough land. Yeah. And the thing about the Hong Kong situation, more than any others, is with the exception of people's whose opinions I have to completely discount, which would be the Chinese government and those afraid of the Chinese government or brainwashed by the Chinese government. I think everybody can agree that human rights and not being colonialized by a foreign hostile power are things worth fighting for. Particularly China, seeing how their actions have not been ethical in the past. Now, on the other hand, I think it's probably only fair. The most recent lore book came out for Magic the Gathering, and I saw a review for it, and I really don't care about lore books or any of the lore in Magic the Gathering. In all honesty, I'm probably only going to play this game for the briefest of a year or so, and then I'm going to just jump to the second dinner Marvel game, which will be a lot easier to start fresh with instead of such an old game like Magic. But apparently there's some female characters that were lesbians, and Hasbro and Magic the Gathering Wizards of the Coast have all been pro-LGBT, and then in this latest book it said no, they really weren't lesbians. Or at least one of them wasn't a lesbian or bi or whatever. That they were actually straight, and yeah, like I don't. They just kind of denied the existence and turned it into, oh, it's just a phase from the review I saw, and people are upset about that. But as anybody should be upset when somebody just retcons something or actively changes a character drastically. And he has like 2 of these now. Irritating. So I could use this to buff this character up. But yeah. So yeah, they're not happy about that. They didn't seem to, the review I saw didn't seem to like the latest lore book at all, which seems like the previous lore book was kind of liked. So yeah, I don't know what else you really take from that other than they probably rushed it or let the wrong person write the books. In a lot of ways, it feels like the Magic the Gathering lore books are very similar to like a comic book series where they just pick kind of random people and allow them to write their own Supermans, a Wonder Woman comics, and sometimes they go in one way and sometimes they go in the other way. And I imagine that there was an incredible amount of SJWs in Magic the Gathering, from what I hear, running the show, or at least being extremely vocal, as what happened with the comic book industry too, to the point where almost every comic tries to be woke for one reason or another. Alright, that just puts a 1/1 on that guy. Meanwhile, this guy doesn't have flying. The art makes me think he has wings, but it is really just a big plume of smoke around this lava golem. So let's just attack with this. So part of the
foolish
speculation why the most recent lore book of Magic the Gathering would have like retconned the character's sexual orientation and relationship, major characters by the looks of it, seems to be a fear that they're just trying to get into the Chinese market, or stay in the Chinese market. I don't know. I mean, you got a skeleton right here. Are you really going to... Is Magic really going to work in China? Particularly when you think about like the large amount of the very Oops, that guy had death touch. Yeah, there's a very high amount of counterfeiting and such that happens already in China. So if magic became, paper magic in particular, became super popular in China, then almost certainly people would start just copying and cloning and counterfeiting the cards, and Wizards of the Coast would not really make any money there. Meanwhile, the lore book really doesn't seem like it's going to have any effect in Arena in particular, and the book sales and the translation sales probably aren't that high in China. So it seems like if it is done as a way of appeasing China, it seems like it's a dumb thought in the first place. It'd be nice if some of these lore books were good and they somehow integrated into the Arena, but best way you could do that would be to have something like a festival or a solo adventure that tells the story, and Hearthstone should have done a lot more of that, but even when they were doing things like the Lich King and Nexaramus, they weren't telling enough of the backstory for it to really make sense to somebody who hadn't played World of Warcraft, or for anybody to pay attention enough or care enough. Yeah, it seems just silly. The other complaint was that the writing was just terrible in the most recent lore book. But I'm definitely not the person to get your information from if you want to know about the lore of Magic the Gathering, because like when I played it during Ice Age, as far as I understood it, there was no lore, there was no planeswalkers, there was nothing. It was just people, a loose concept, and people liked that just fine. When I came back, I guess a couple years ago, to see some of the single player Magic games and just kind of, I guess I have to attack here and see what he wants to do. Yeah. When I came back and looked at some of those solo Planeswalkers games and played them on my phone and just tested them out a couple years ago, I was very surprised to see just how much the game had changed with all of that. And yeah, even though it is changed, it's still kind of all the same. Not that much is different. Where I think Magic probably needs a full reboot, and they can't really do that. Not with any level of success. Arena is going to be their best point in which they can try to do something like that. 2 damage to somebody. So how does this work? Non-creature spell, put a +1/+1. Okay. Whenever an opponent is dealt non-combat damage. Okay. So let's see. Until the end of the turn. So he could kill one of my guys, but he probably wouldn't want to do that. So let's just move on and start covering the news, I guess. It seems like just going back to the default decks has put me back onto the path of winning, and if we get everything done, then I'm not going to have that situation where, let's see. I may just get all the daily quests done pretty quickly here. If things are going to happen on the weekends and I'm potentially going to start missing things, I may have to make some special episodes on the weekends just to do the festivals, and I don't really want to do that. Like, I don't want to play Magic on the weekends. I'm already struggling to get a few extra days to record other games, and I'm not doing a great job there by any means, and I haven't been able to do a great job there for a long time. With the revelation that you really can only have 3 things air on your channel to get notifications, it changes how many shows will air on my channel in general. And in some weird way, that might end up with my channel being more successful, but who knows? Like, nobody have no clue what is going to happen regardless of anything, because there's just constant worry on top of the Copa adpocalypse happening to a bunch of, potentially affecting a bunch of Lego channels, as marking them all for as targeted towards kids, and potentially getting those channels in trouble when they say no, these aren't videos targeted towards kids, to try and maintain some monetization. There is also always a chance every year around January and February that we have another adpocalypse where the advertisers find up some excuse or some reason to reduce what they're paying or negotiate for a lower rate on their advertising. Speaking of YouTube, PewDiePie was mentioned in kind of a negative, joking light on The Good Place, which will be interesting to see if PewDiePie responds to that at all. But yeah, it was just a one-handed reference, and I don't think that there's too much to get infuriated with it, that a mainstream TV would say PewDiePie is evil. Or imply it. Like, the writing probably for that line probably happened months, if not years earlier, so it could have been right after one of the many controversies levied against PewDiePie. But the way they phrased it, the idea that PewDiePie is one of the most evil persons somebody could think of on Earth is kind of ridiculous. It would have been much better to say Jeff Bezos, or the guy in charge of Facebook. That would be a better person to specifically pick as an example of somebody that everybody hates. So Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos. They probably chose PewDiePie as a funny word to say more than anything else. Yeah, I don't know about The Good Place as far as a TV show. Like it's running into a dangerous situation where it's got to wrap itself up some way, and I'm not sure it's going to ever have a satisfactory ending. I'm not sure it really can. Alright, well, 246. So, this guy's done a massive amount of damage to me quickly. And isn't my deck supposed to be the one that's aggro? Yep. Let's move on with the rest of the news then. Here we have a Gamma Sutra block, rock, scissors, paper design in JRPG styled games. In case you're not familiar, almost a ton of JRPG games have a rock, paper, scissors design, although it's better described in most cases as a red, blue, green design with a black and white side design, which complicates it a little bit more, where kind of red, blue, and green go in a circle, each being weak to the other and strong against another color, and then black and white often being weak or strong against each other. So it's a more complicated system in most games. That's how Destiny Child and all the gacha games work, is that there are different classes of colors. And some games will change it one way or another. Pokemon certainly has had that, and then Pokemon, I guess, turned it as complicated as possible because, you run into a scenario in Pokemon now if you're playing the most recent game, which I don't know why you would be, considering all the controversy around it, and all the shenanigans around it. But yeah, having a psychic type versus an electric type versus a rock type versus a ground type versus a water type versus a like plains type, I imagine. Like I couldn't even name all the different types. But in red and blue, even then it wasn't just 3. They kind of made it seem like it was just 3. You started with either like a air character and what were the 3 starter Pokemon, coming to think of it, in red and blue? No, one of them wasn't Pikachu. Yeah, it's been so long. What's funny is this deck is not as aggro as it seems like it should be. So yeah, there's other games that have changed that system, but you have to have a system. So a blog or an argument that says, well, all games are using similar systems and that's a problem, or that's just not creative, really falls apart when you say, well, there has to be some kind of system, otherwise it would just be randomized, and any system oversimplified enough will look like another system oversimplified. Like you could say rock, paper, scissors boiled down is a lot like checkers, because each piece is weak against the opponent's pieces. So effectively, instead of having a rock paper scissors system, checkers has a white pieces and black pieces system, which really doesn't mean anything. Is this a card we would want to destroy? Yeah, there's a lot of build-up I think you have to do. So, yeah, chess is a much more complicated system in which, but it's really the same as checkers in the sense that it's still black pieces are vulnerable to white pieces if you oversimplify it, and vice versa. Yeah, a first-person shooter could even be oversimplified in the same way, because you could say all creatures are vulnerable to bullets, but then armor defeats bullets. So yeah, you really could just keep going in circles, making what it would be a pedantic argument, while not being able to offer anything different. The only thing that you can slightly have different is have a bit of randomization, I suppose, added in, so you don't know the exact amount of damage you would do just based on color affinity. In a weird way, Magic, while they do have colors, there really isn't a hard-coded and hard-programmed affinity. It's not like greens take twice as much damage from reds, but there is generic concepts that make something a red card, somewhat. I don't think as much as it would matter. What's this card doing? It's making it a 3/3 elk, ruining my setup. Moving on with the news, TechCraft has an article. Overwatch lawsuit in China was won by Blizzard and NetEase. So this is probably the only good news that Activision Blizzard's going to have for a while. And I'm not sure this is as much a victory for Blizzard as it is NetEase. Maybe this is the whole Hong Kong censorship in a nutshell, is that they wanted to win that lawsuit. The developer that was making the clone games was called 4399. One of the titles was called Heroes of Warfare. The game has a striking resemblance to Overwatch. So, here on the right is Heroes of Warfare. Here on the left is Overwatch. They look somewhat similar, but I'd have to see a lot more comparisons. The problem with a lot of these lawsuits in particular is you could, let's see, can I not block with this guy? Let's see, block. A lot of problems of copyright lawsuits is that a lot of times it is just screenshots that are brought in and not the totality of the games. It'd be kind of silly to let the jurors or the judge play the game, but they kind of need to see that. Otherwise, you are going to have a problem. I'm still trying to get enough mana to play this. Seems like they won 500,070 and $70,000 in damages. I imagine they won't see a dime of that ever. I imagine the company will just disappear in the night. So this is probably a mostly hollow victory for Activision Blizzard. Just there to ensure that no other company tries to clone Overwatch too much, and a hero first-person shooter game, like, Activision really can't legitimately claim to own that. They didn't create that genre. They didn't do anything super special in that genre. So, yeah, they would not just be able to dominate the market. Let's see. I think this next article probably skirts within the lines of being YouTube family friendly, just barely, but I think it still does. So I'll show this article here. For the PS4, Gamatsu has an article, the Oni Chambra Origin gameplay trailer, Eva and Death Bear and Trent systems have been detailed. So they show this new character, I imagine, is Eva. And here's a Death Bear. That's pretty gross. As an enemy. And some more characters. These might be the Trent systems. And then there's a video here. And here's the two main characters from the Oni Chambra series. But this, of course, being the origin of the series. Now, what's funny here is that this is a PS4 game, and PS4 has been particularly bad about 2 damage to any target. Darn it. Damage can't be prevented this turn. Yeah, it's crazy that this is a PS4 game. I know that the Oni Chambra series has been on the PS4 in the past, and I'm gonna watch this trailer, but not show it. Ninja cowboy hat wearing, bikini wearing girl is running around, killing hundreds upon hundreds of zombies. And so is the sailor uniform girl. They're jumping between the different characters, just hacking and slashing a bunch of zombies, and it looks like collecting coins. It's kind of funny. I know the history is there. Now, one of them is fighting a giant baby zombie. That's interesting. It's a weird game. But I love weird games, so I would play the Oni Chambra series, and I know that there's like one on Steam, but that's it. So, I'm not willing to play the one game and then the one side game that's on Steam, while missing out on Origins and missing out on all the main games. And the main games are pretty old, so if Origins was the beginning of some remasters, or that would be nice, but the fact that Origins is not on PC and hasn't been, I think, announced to PC is kind of a disappointment. Let's see. What does this guy do? Double strike, trample. +1/+1, and it has double strike and trample. Interesting. Okay. So now... Yes. And yeah, pass, and then block. Although, yeah, why did I block with that when I could have just blocked with that? Oh, that double strike didn't do the damage. Darn it. I still have yet to figure out. 4 damage to any target and 3 damage to each of up to 2 other targets. Interesting. So this guy does have reach, so he can defend, but then I can kill him first. So it's kind of hard to be hyped about the Onechomba series, which otherwise I would be really hyped about it. And when I think about all the other kind of lewd anime and games that are on Steam, most of them are visual novels or JRPGs. You don't have something that's a more simplified, appealing, Western appealing style game where you just have to, well, for lack of a better term, oh, darn it, I forgot about the double strike. I'm an idiot and I deserve this loss. Like, I could have won there. This is one of these examples where if I was playing Paper Magic with somebody who was really, really nice and really generous and not going to just be a jerk or take advantage of me, they would have said, actually, why don't you not do that because of my double strike? And they would have explained it to me. I feel like Magic Arena probably needs a baby mode where it tells me that. It's doing a little bit of that where it says, are you sure? But it doesn't seem to check some scenarios. So when I block with a, when I block with something that I shouldn't block with, it doesn't ask, am I sure? It kind of needs a whole list of are you sure things that you can just check the box, and it says when you say I fully understand the idea of blocking against a creature with double strike, because clearly I don't understand the idea of blocking with double strike. This is green because of the spell on it. So he's going to use my own guy against me, just to show me how much of a fool I am. I guess I already have the Neptunia games, or most of the Neptunia games, through Humble Bundles that I've purchased over the past year or two. So the closest thing to play there would be something like the Neptunia games, I think. And now I'm just back down. We got halfway up and then halfway back down. But meanwhile, we're kind of doing fine. And we could move over to playing like the black default deck and trying some of the other default decks a little bit more. And yeah, that would probably work a little bit better. Let's end the recording here, and then we will move on to the next recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.